Why does Larry have 5 o'clock shadow all over his body?
Why did the engaged girl go into the woods with another man?
How much is Larry's monthly flea treatment budget?
Find out the answers to all these questions and more on this week's Gory Story Time.
Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Storytime. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig, and this is the show where we review horror movies from the beginning of film until now, apparently. We usually do newer things than this. We usually say, 60s to now or whatever.
Yeah.
But, forever, we've had a picture of Frankenstein in our background, and we never hit that kind of genre of horror movie. We never went back to the black and white, the films that started it all. And this was one that I was a huge fan of as a little kid, was The Wolfman. So
That's the first one we're doing.
Yeah, for the month of October, each week we're going to take a classic black and white, basically universal monster.
Yep.
For the most part, because there's another one that you want to do, but I don't know that
it's universal.
It's not. No, it's not. But we'll let you know that week to week.
Right.
This week we're doing the classic Lon Chaney Universal movie monster of the Wolfman.
Yes. Which, when looking it up for the scores, I found out there was one in 1917 by the same name.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the one people think of when they think the classic Universal monsters. So basic premise, guy goes to England. He's like the prodigal son from the Bible. He's estranged from his father. Things happen. He comes back and he's basically trying to reconcile after the death of his brother, and then things happen in the woods. Bad things.
Yeah, a lot of things happen in the woods in this movie.
Yeah, it's almost like wolves are outside. It'd be weird if it happened in the bathroom.
I mean, a little bit.
I mean, that is where most people first notice extra hair. Anyway, let's show people what they
are missing out on
if they haven't seen the trailer. Go ahead and roll that.
Jenny Williams was killed?
Yes. Find something?
Animal tracks.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
Oh, don't hand me that. You're just wasting your time.
The wolf bit you, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
You
You wouldn't want to run away with a murderer, would you?
Oh, Larry, you're not. You know you're not.
You'll get it. I killed you. If I stay here any longer, you can't tell who'll be next.
Welcome back to Turner Classic Movies. Anyway, that's the acting, the black and white, before we get into the behind-the-scenes information that we do every week, we have to send a shout-out to our sponsors. Yes.
Yes.
We are always making big, fat stacks of cash because of the show. And we believe that didn't explain why we're living in this area. Because people with big, fat stacks of cash wouldn't.
Right.
Love you, BF. But, so, they're real products that are paying us to advertise.
Right.
This week, Gory Storytime is brought to you by Talbot Razors. Talbot Razors are the best razors available. No matter how thick and wild your hair is, a Talbot razor will glide through like a hot knife through butter. We use 4 pure silver blades guaranteed to give you the closest shave you've ever had. That's Talbot Razors, a howl of a great shave. And by
the new Millennium Monster cereals. While some people are happy with the old standbys of Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Boo Berry from the 70s, some of the younger folk want to see these monsters updated. That's why the folks at GST Foods have created 5 new monster cereals for a younger crowd, and introducing Freddy's Dreamsicle, Jason's chocolate. Oh,
chocolate, click. Come on.
that.
Say it.
Chocolate.
No, cha. Come on.
Cha. Put them in your grocer's cereal aisle today. Not a part of a complete breakfast. New Millennium Monster cereals. They'll scare the hunger out of you. Human centipede.
Human.
I said that.
No, the first time you did when you read it, but
And then I just said human.
You said human.
Soylent.
Shut up, crime. Anyway, that's a different movie.
All of those are different movies.
You want me to go first with the... Now, to the meat and beef of the show.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The wolf that Larry Talbot fights was Lon Chaney Jr.'s own German Shepherd.
Universal originally planned this project for its horror superstar, Boris Karloff.
In Kurt Siodmak's original script for the film, whether or not Lawrence Talbot really underwent a physical transformation to a werewolf or if it simply occurred in his mind was left ambiguous. Excuse me. The Wolfman was to never appear on screen. Ultimately, the studio decided that Talbot's literal transformation would be more appealing to the audience and thus more profitable. The script was revised accordingly. See, that's an interesting thought, except you can't, if you go to the movies and watch The Wolfman and he doesn't turn into a werewolf, boo!
Yes. That would have been weird.
It's Dracula, except he walks out in the sunlight and sparkles and has no fangs. Oh wait, that's...
Yes. The Wolfman battled a bear in one scene, but unfortunately, the bear ran away during filming. What few scenes were filmed were put into the theatrical trailer.
And a side note, many people from town were mauled to death. The film opened just 2 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. That just seems...
Doesn't seem accurate. Because
nowadays they'd be like, wait, there's an attack in the movie. There was an attack in real life. We can't
They're related.
We can't
Right.
release this because someone's going to get upset and offended. Because in 1941, people, were snowflakes. Oh, wait, nope. 17-year-olds were lying to join the military. But, whatever.
But that doesn't make sense because I saw that it said December 12th was when this was released. and the date that would live in infamy was December 7th. That's not 2 days. Whatever. Okay, facts can't be right. Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. This quote has been listed in some sources as an authentic gypsy or Eastern European folk saying. Writer Kurt Siedemit, I don't know.
Anyway.
Kurt admits that he simply made it up. Nonetheless, the rhyme would be recited in every future Universal film appearance of the Wolfman and would also be quoted in Van Helsing, albeit slightly modified. The moon is shining bright rather than the autumn moon is bright.
Larry Talbot and his father, Sir John, attend church on Sunday in the village, but the doorway and steps of the village church look more like a cathedral. In fact, it was a cathedral, part of the original set built for the legendary silent version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1923, which had starred Lon Chaney Jr.'s famous father, Lon Chaney, and stood on the Universal backlot for over 20 years. It is weird that this was Lon Chaney Jr. and it just says Lon Chaney on even in the credits it said Lon Chaney. It's like, no, his dad was already a movie star named Lon Chaney. Like, why they didn't add the junior there, I don't know.
To make him sound more famous, I guess.
But people didn't look at him and go, hey, you're not 20 years older than you.
Right. Bela Lugosi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actively campaigned for the lead role and ended up playing a minor supporting role.
Yeah, so the guy, it was originally intended for the guy who played Frankenstein, and, the guy who played Dracula wanted to play it. But I guess the crossover movies would have been weird. Where was it? Many of the modern myths of werewolves originated from this film. A person becoming a werewolf through a bite. The only way to kill a werewolf is with a silver bullet. Werewolves and their victims being marked with pentagrams. First of all, it doesn't say silver bullet, but whatever. Some are taken from the earlier unsuccessful werewolf movie, Werewolf of London from 1935, which also made them up out of whole cloth. The others are original concepts created by the writer Kurt Siodmak or whatever. In folklore, one became a werewolf by being cursed or making a pact with the devil. You could turn at any time. The werewolves were mortal and could be killed by conventional means. Later films added the details of the werewolves being immortal, again, an invention of Hollywood, and basically an excuse to keep bringing the character back for sequel after sequel.
Larry Silver Wolf Kane, the only known surviving prop from the movie, currently resides in the personal collection of genre film archivist Bob Burns. Burns, who was a schoolboy at the time, was given the Kane head.
Turning into a beast is the same as
being chased by Nazis.
Right. Also, the Wolfman himself can be seen as a metaphor for the Nazis. An otherwise good man is transformed into a vicious killing animal who knows his next victim when he sees the symbol of the pentagram, or like a star on them. No. That's a stretch. Your turn.
Okay. Maria Auspenskaya, let's go with that, who played the old gypsy woman, was only 6 years older than Bela Lugosi, who played her son.
In the first version of the script, Larry was not the prodigal son of John Talbot, nor related to him in any way. He was an American engineer who comes to fix Sir John's telescope and ends up getting trapped in the werewolf curse.
Kurt claimed that he is responsible for the addition of canon of the werewolf's vulnerability to silver, and this claim has often been repeated by horror aficionados, including director John Landis. However, silver, according to legend, was first used to slay a werewolf in The Beast of Gavaldon?
I don't know.
Dating from the late 19th century. Novels recounting the legend appeared in the 30s and featured the slaying of the werewolf with a silver bullet. The Wolfman, however, was the first film to utilize the silver bullet myth on screen.
Except it wasn't a silver bullet at the very beginning.
Right.
It was a silver. It was just silver.
It was anything silver.
So even their facts are anyway
Off.
This film marks the first of 5 appearances by Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman for Universal Studios out of the Universal classic canon of monsters. Chaney was the only actor to portray the same character in each of the classic films and sequels.
In this movie, we're told that a werewolf is a human being who becomes a wolf at certain times of the year. When the wolfbane blooms, the autumn moon is bright, and the moon is never depicted in the film. This is the only one of the Universal series of Wolfman films in which the full moon is never shown. In the sequel, the folklore is changed to when the moon is full and bright.
Lon Chaney's makeup took 6 hours to apply and 3 hours to get off.
Wow. For one scene, Evelyn Ankers had to faint and fall to the misty ground, but the fog fumes were so strong she passed out, unnoticed by the director and crew who were concentrating on another aspect of the scene. She remained there unnoticed until a studio technician began breaking down the set.
To be fair, it was 1941 and she was only a woman. So why pay attention to her?
Touche.
Lon Chaney's character was never once in the film referred to as a wolfman. Or the
And the scores.
Oh, yes. The people on the old Rotten Tomatoes has this movie at 80%.
Yes. And the critics have it at a 94%.
I mean, definitely rated very high. Now, before we give our ratings, we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite scenes. Let's go least first. What's your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene has to be him fighting off the dog, because I didn't like how they used the dog to be the wolf man and then had him play a human-shaped wolf person.
Yeah, it didn't line up. Because if he was
'Cause
bitten by a werewolf and it was a dog-shaped wolf man, and then and then when he beat it to death, it did
turn into a guy.
And in the sequels, he comes back because they're unable to be killed, except the one that he killed stayed dead.
And passed the curse.
Yeah, so, okay, I can see that. My least favorite part is probably the fact that he talks to a girl who has a fiance.
Yep.
And he's like, I'll pick you up at 8. She's like, no. He's like, but I'm going to. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. And she's like, no. And he's basically gives her information that he only knows from like sneaking a peek into her bedroom with, a telescope. And then when bad things happen out in the woods, when they're alone, her dad was like, I trust my daughter who is engaged, who was found to be alone with a man who obviously wants her physically out in the woods away from her fiance. Right. It's like, how naive are you, everybody in this film? Like all of the people?
Yeah.
Except for Larry, who knows exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah.
It's like Wolfbane's not the only thing blooming. What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is less of a scene and more of a thing. The cane. I thought that was a pretty badass looking cane, and I kind of want it.
Okay. My favorite thing is not the way it looks, but the way they did the werewolf makeup. They would add a couple hairs and then take a single frame. Add a couple hairs, take a single frame, so that when it played at the normal, 24 frames per second or whatever it is, it would look like it appeared. It didn't look like it was growing out. It looked like it just appeared. It did kind of turn out to be a jumbled mess, but the fact that they tried to make it realistic,
Right.
it was an interesting thing to
Thought.
find
It was
out
a
that-
cool idea that they had.
And being 1941, there were people that were probably very amazed by that, let's be honest.
Yes.
Now, we're going to rate this differently than we would a Human Centipede or a Nightmare on Elm Street, because to compare, we're just trying to give love to the classics that without which there wouldn't be a horror genre, you know? And yeah, there was horror movies before these, but these are the ones that people consider the classics. So rating it on movies at the time, special effects at the time, what would you rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's hard for me because I'm a huge fan of werewolves,
Okay.
but this movie did not keep me very interested most of the way through.
But most of the things you love about werewolves came from this movie.
Yes.
Same with, if you watch zombie movies now, Night of the Living
Because-
Dead's like, eh.
Because they
But for what
introduced
it is.
all of the things that I like about werewolves, though not necessarily shown in a way that I enjoyed, I'm going to have to give it a 7.5
This was probably my favorite
of the
of
classics.
the classic horror movies when I was a kid. I'm going to go with an 8 just because, you know, the acting was still 1940s acting, the special effects, but for what it was, like, I've yet to see a werewolf on screen that I've thought didn't look hokey. It always looks like
Right.
a suit or bad CGI, and
Or taped on
yeah,
hair.
but it was glued on.
Or glued on. Not
But
taped,
anyway.
But still.
All right, let's
So let's wrap this up. On that side of the screen, there are things you can watch this show on Fact TV Channel 8, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m., Fridays at 7 p.m.
You can email us at gorystorytime@yahoo.com.
You can like us on Facebook. You can like Fact TV on Facebook. You probably did if you're watching this live. If so, hi.
If not, then you can always, you know, in the future.
Yep. You can go back and watch a bunch of back episodes on their website, factdate.com.
Some of the old episodes we have on my YouTube channel, which is Juggalo Jake's all one word, on YouTube. I've got music videos, fake commercials, our 100th episode spectacular, hour long. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Craig Jakes, all one word, all lowercase.
And I'm at Jason T. Jakes, capital J, capital T, capital J.
We don't really talk about the show, but